Good afternoon, good morning, good night, depending on where you are. In Ukraine, it is pass them on to me so that we can follow up. But of course, it's a brief of, do you really believe or think that our world will never be the same after this crisis? I will start with you, Tine. Tine Fischer, the director and founder of CPH Docs. Please.
Thank you. Well, do I think, you know, I'm not sure what I think, but I hope that the world and that we, personally, but also as industry, will never be the same again. And I just have to say, because we've experienced a March 2020 that has shown us that we as citizens, as nation states, have been able to change by the speed of light, and that we have taken action in sacrificing to flatten a curve in a very concrete way. And to be able to do that, for me, is it's a responsibility that needs to be carried out in the years to come. So for that reason, I hope and I believe that the world will never be the same again after COVID-19.
Thank you. I'll move to Martin, our dear Martin Horyna from the Karlovy International Film Festival. Thank you for joining. Do you think it will be ever the same again?
I would say hello everybody. I would say that I somehow agree with Tine. The thing is that maybe from the outside, like the first look, let's say in 5-10 years, might suggest that everything happens as it used to happen in the past, but the experience will surely change us, and you cannot get rid of the experience. And I think it will be present somehow in how we will be reacting to other things around us, and maybe how we will see our position in the world, also in environment. But this fact of having something stuck in our minds, I think it will also change the film industry, even though it's very probable. I hope it's sure that we will start seeing each other again, watching films in cinema soon, and everything will somehow get back to normal, but it will be not how it used to be.
I'll thank you very much, Martin. And Melanie. Melanie Iredale is the executive director or the general director or the festival, what is your right?
Deputy director.
The deputy director of Sheffield Dog Fest. Melanie, it's wonderful to see you with us, as ever. Do you think the world will ever be the same again?
I don't, so I can only agree that I don't. I also think, you know, there's part of me that, you know, for as sort of catastrophic as all of this is, I think there's part of me that thinks, well, and nor should it be. I think, you know, what this crisis has done is to really expose just how much, you know, we have been kind of ruining the planet. I think it's done a lot to kind of highlight, you know, systemic socioeconomic inequalities and so on. And so, you know, there's part of me that thinks that, you know, hopes, I guess, that of course nothing, you know, of course the world won't be the same then. And I hope that it helps us to really think about what matters, and so that there's some progress the other side. And with that, I think I really believe that, you know, though it seems perhaps difficult to imagine at the moment, I think there's something really human and really kind of instinctive in wanting to come together to experience art and culture and to hear each other's stories. And so I really believe that, you know, coming out the other side, that festivals have a part to play in this kind of collective experience of culture and cinema.
Thank you. Now to you, Ondřej. I think it's a question that that was answered. And I'm really waiting to see your different answer now. Ondřej from One World Film Festival in Prague. Do you think we will be the same?
No, because our festival was cancelled. We were forced to cancel actually in the middle of the first part, which was in Prague. So I think that for us, for our team, has already everything changed. And in the future, I think it's still difficult to predict what will happen. But I'm sure that the change is already happening now. So it will not be the same again.
Vika, what does it look like from Kiev? Vika from Docudays. You are hosting us, but you're also in the same question, in the same challenge. What does it look like from your end?
Yeah, actually we were discussing this like a few minutes ago with Ira and Dasha as well, that like for us the situation of change in Ukraine is something like quite common situation, because every day we don't know what the next day is going to bring us, and this is like very common, very basic situation for all of us. And what we actually, our great skill, I believe, it's like creative adaptivity, so we're forced to be like this. So I mean, in this situation, it's definitely that the world won't be the same again, but I think that in our reality it's not big drama. I mean, it's something we experience already, so I'm really looking forward. I'm quite optimistic in a way, because maybe like for Ukraine, for our reality, it's a good like push, and I really expect maybe for some good things to happen. At least we really like we are closing a really wonderful edition of the festival, and actually the experience we got is this. It will change us the festival completely, I believe.
Thank you, Vika. Iryna Tsilyk, our guest next to Vika in the studio in Kiev, is a filmmaker who is one of the panelists together with us, 6 festival professionals. You are here, Ira, to test all of us. I mean, I think you represent a lot. You stand for the filmmakers in this equation, and we all, of course, put the filmmakers at the forefront of what we want to stand by, what we want to support. First, congratulations. We know that you just won 2 awards in Docudays yesterday.
Thank you.
And you started this streak with an award in January already of Best Director in World Documentary Film at Sundance. And I think it's been a very special year to you. We will get to speak about your experience this year, but first I want to tell you that in front of you now, there is a festival, a representative of a festival that started 2 days before the lockdown and had to be cut and interrupted. But I believe you were there when that happened also. You have a festival that had only 2-3 weeks, I don't know exactly, but CPH docs that had a very pressed moment of time to quickly reimagine what it's doing and come up with a different approach and go online. You have a festival that just announced its cancellation and thinking different ways of doing something meaningful despite that. And you have a festival which is Sheffield Doc Fest that is having a different look at this. And if I'm understanding correctly, but we will be getting more information from Melanie later, but it will be creating various activities and screenings over a longer period of time, but without the peak of the film screenings in the festival time itself, but also will do a lot and already started doing a lot in industry online. So we have, I think, and me representing IDFA, which is the latest in the calendar in this meeting in November. So it seems to be very promising that things can be, you know, a little less tight or strict by that time, but we also all know that you can't really take a full bet on that because it is a changing and uncertain moment. So in front of you, I think, is a good map of the possibilities of what festivals can experience this year. And you are here, you started with Sundance, premiered your film, got the award there. You went to Berlinale, showed your film in Generations in Berlinale, and then you went online. I think Docudays was your film's national premiere, and it was obviously quite successful. You won 2 awards, not only 1. So, The Earth is Blue as an Orange is one of the year's highlights so far for everyone in documentary film. What do you tell us about this experience? Some would say you're very lucky because you caught up with 2 big festivals before the lockdown. Some would say you're not so lucky because you did that and then there's nothing but going online. Are you enjoying it? Do you feel so bitter? Does it feel that there is something positive in going online, or is it only disappointing? How do you feel about it?
First of all, I want to say that it's so nice to see you, even through the monitors. So it's also the way to meet people. And we really have this adaptive strength to change ourselves in different kind of situations. And you know, as to our project, first of all, maybe there is an important point. This is my debut full-length film. So I don't have some big experience behind me and I don't have something to compare. But of course, me and my team, we had some expectations. We were dreaming about different festivals. And yes, we were so lucky to start from these big premieres. And we had this chance to invite our protagonists with us because it was really important to be with them in that big screening halls with the audience. And then we had a list of some festivals who have selected us already. And I was invited by many of them, and I have that plans for spring, for summer. And then I came to One World Film Festival, and just 1 hour after arrival, I got news that the festival was cancelled, and I saw all the team of the festival, how they were discussing and deciding what to do, and that was really painful, I mean, to see them. But then, you know, I'm trying to be optimistic, because of course, we have lots of doubts and big uncertainty about the future of our film. But at the same time, maybe these new rules of the game can give us some new advantages. For example, as to our national premiere at Docudays, I will be sincere with you, I was really disappointed when I realized that we need to do that in that way, because I've dreamed about other kind of premiere in my country. But then that was a very special and interesting experience, because, for example, I know already, when I'm looking back, that quite a big amount of people have watched our film during that 1 day of screenings. And it were really different people from beyond of our bubble. I mean, that people that usually don't attend documentary film festivals, because we've received hundreds or even thousands feedbacks from these people. And I realized that it was really cool for our project, for actually for all of us. So I'm trying again to be optimistic. At the same time, you know, I've been dreaming about theatrical distribution in Ukraine and some other countries, and I don't know, do we still have this chance or not? Because so many people had this chance to watch our film online, and I'm not sure, do we still have lots of other people who would love to, and we don't know, do we have this chance? So actually I have quite dual feelings, but we'll see.
Okay, thank you, and please feel free to interrupt us. I think you're the only one who should be allowed to interrupt us now. It's that I think the backbone of this panel. I want to ask all of you the following question. It seems that in everything we're talking about, there is a consensus, there is a certain sense of sacredness or holiness to being theatrical. And of course, in this year, being theatrical is being challenged by going online, and many people arguing that this is the new era, this is the new generation, that we are only conservatives because we want to keep defending a theatrical physical experience. There's a lot of discussion about the cost of theatrical screenings, about the risks with a pandemic or with other possible health issues in the future. But we keep insisting. I think I've heard each one of you in a different way express this, that we keep insisting that this is who we are and we want to do this. My question is, how do we advocate this at this stage? When it seems to be all against like more environmental cost, more economic cost, health danger, health risk, and everybody's convinced that the new generation doesn't want to go to the cinema, it's only on their mobiles, etc. How do we, in your words, should we advocate for theatrical activity? Can I start with you, Melanie?
Yeah, absolutely. Yes, so I guess, we do defend the kind of, the big screen experience, and we have been keen to say from the start that the festival that DocFest, even for this year, isn't just taking the festival online. So we will do some activity online, including our marketplace and some talks and sessions, and we will have a film program online, but it remains really important to us to go ahead and produce at least a smaller, reduced version of the film program in cinemas in Sheffield once it's safe to do so. So we're looking at creating kind of small weekenders once a month, touch wood, between September and December. Again, kind of knowing that this might need to change in the circumstances, and being careful to make sure, obviously, that we won't be doing this until it's safe to do so, and keeping an eye on a second wave and all the rest of it. But yeah, for us, we are really committed, even if it's just for a small amount of films, to be able to give them that kind of big screen experience. And for us, as I said earlier, I think it's about that kind of collective experience for an audience, to be able to share and discuss and debate and to meet the filmmakers where that's possible, and yeah, to kind of defend that communal experience of watching films collectively. But it's also about creating a space and creating the conditions beyond the kind of liveness and beyond the kind of tech side of things, the big screen and the sound and so on. It's also about creating the creating the conditions in which an audience can be truly immersed in a film in a way whereby they're not, distracted by the kind of home surroundings. They're not watching a film where they're also, scrolling on Twitter and so on. Like, I think there's something about kind of the difference between, film and television, whereby, there's a different demand sometimes that film expects of you or needs from you in order to fully make the most of it. And yeah, so I guess we're doing what we can to kind of create the best conditions for at least some of the films in the program to be seen in the way in which they have been intended. And I think for as long as filmmakers want their films to be seen on the big screen, and for as long as audiences want to watch those collectively, then we'll always try and make that happen. Having said that, of course, we are also putting some films online. We are also replicating some of these weekenders online. But yeah, where we can, we're keen to roll out some of the program in Sheffield, and also to attract new audiences. You know, we're a charity, and there's something about making sure that we have an offer for our kind of existing Sheffield public audience, but there's also a lot more that we know that we can be doing around outreach and attracting new audiences. And for some of them, the best way to do that will be in physical screenings as well as online. And also just to touch on the age thing, because I know that a lot of independent cinemas, their kind of core audiences are older, and I know that those are the people who I think the cinema circuits are kind of particularly concerned might be the last to return to the cinema, because surveys are showing that they're the most nervous. But at DocFest, our audience is actually really quite young. I think like 40% of our audiences are under 30. So I think just as a brand, historically, we've always attracted that younger audience. And so I would just kind of question that necessarily that audience is watching. You know, of course, they're also watching online, and that's brilliant. And I don't see that the two things are in competition, but they are still going to the cinema, or at least they're still attending DocFest.
Sorry, Tine, you have we've been reading and following up with an amazingly successful year edition of CPH Docs that was totally entirely online. Yeah. Yet coming out of that, you were still saying this will not replace, that maybe something should stay also online, but it does not replace the theatrical experience. Why? This is maybe even easier, cheaper, less headache. Why do we need this, in your opinion?
So I think I would really not stand up as a very conservative person, or I hope I don't, but I think that the way that cinema historically, but also today, and especially art house cinema, is conceptualized and creatively developed to be seen within that institution that we call cinema. It's a physical experience. It's also a contemplative aesthetic experience. And there are films that should be seen there. And it's not that they cannot be seen on a small computer screen, but I believe that they should be seen there. And if I go back in my own experience of going through film history, and also, of course, contemporary art film history, then I have to say that my biggest experiences when it comes to cinema as art has been within the institution of cinema. And it's just like, I mean, you can make huge democratic and very well-functioning online experiences with Louvre or other major museums, but you also need to go there once in a lifetime. And so that being said, I will defend the institution of cinema, and I will also have a festival that will defend the institution of cinema, and we will do it also for the many art house cinemas that are now struggling. But I also have to say that what we did this year has maybe, I've been doing CPH Docs for, I don't know, 15 years, and it has been the most overwhelming experience in terms of having a contact with a new audience. So there is a huge democratic potential in going online. We, as you at DocFest, have a very young audience, and this year we certainly have an audience that comes from all parts of Denmark, but also a much older audience. And we have an audience that they didn't even know what CPH Docs is, and now they do, and they write to us, they communicate in a way that, to be honest, our younger audiences do not. And I have to say that we will never ever, and that's also why I start by saying we can never go back to the ones we were before, even though we all come out of having studied film and we are all art house fanatics. But what we did this year in terms of actually making films available in a different way is is of huge importance, I think. And I also have to say that there are films that really needs the big screen, but there are also films that do not. I mean, you don't have to put all films into that cinema theater. I mean, there are films where I have to say, if you were to do an online screening of a film about, let's say, surveillance and corona and artificial intelligence, you could just as well screen that film online and have a huge global audience debating the films while it's shown or afterwards. And the impact of that film would be massive. And if you put it into an art house cinema and it might sell 5,000 tickets in 3 months, I mean, so I'm definitely advocating for a hybrid way of doing specifically documentary film festivals in the future. And I think that the collectivity of the cinema as an experience and as a physical room, you can completely work with that and design it to take place online. I mean, online does not have to be me and myself in my sofa with my computer. It can definitely be a global experience or a very interactive and collective experience. And I hope you will have time to develop it over because you will most probably go hybrid, or hopefully you can be both one and the other. But I really think that there's such a strong potential for developing the online part of what we do and what our responsibility is. And I think, Orwa, you said it, or I think you said it, or I read it somewhere, that it's also about new audiences. I mean, we all know that it's super expensive to travel around to festivals, to markets, and there are lots of people who never come, and they have no way of accessing neither our industry platforms nor our festivals if they don't have the capacity to actually show up. So I think there's also a sense of solidarity in actually developing festivals that are accessible to people who are not traveling or with us. Yeah.
Thank you so much. Thank you very much, dear Tina. And this sends me directly to you, Martin, because it touches upon a difference that we all feel at this moment of how at least some of documentary film can be different from fiction in this moment. Karlovy, of course, is a mixed festival, and I was particularly very happy following up with the changes in the program structure, that for the first time in its history, Karlovy's main feature film competition this year was both fiction and documentary film on the same in the same slate. So Karlovy cancelled its separate documentary competition, and I was a big fan of this move. But then, how do you see is there a difference from your viewpoint? How do you see it with fiction? Because otherwise we remain only in thinking with the documentary angle, and I think it's really added value to see the side of fiction too, if you would.
A good question. It's a good question, and of course the answer pretty much goes down to the particular missions of every festival, which can be different sometimes, even though the setting is very similar, but also it goes down to the profile of the film, the distribution channels, distribution strategies, which of course are now torn to pieces. Nobody really know what to do because the situation is so confusing and unpredictable. But in our case, and in case of fiction films, we can name many differences. We try the documentaries we work with. We try to see them as films, and fiction films also just as films. That was also the idea of mixing in our main competition, not being the ones labeling them, because we feel it can help them, especially those films we want to select and we see we should bring to the world. But with those films which we are presenting, there is quite often a rich theatrical career. It's not always the case with documentaries. There are limited releases, but generally speaking, it's, I think, fair to say that usually documentaries are struggling with wide theatrical distribution. Not always, but generally speaking, they are. And in terms of finances, it's usually not the place where to pay for the film, and this changes everything's upside down. So of course, it said it goes again down to business models, which are now being reshaped. But in this particular case, it's one of the good reasons to think twice before jumping online. We are thinking about it for some time, and of course, Tine fiercely advocated for the let's say the apparatus of cinema and the aesthetic experience and the aura of watching together. It's essential, and it's for every film. Of course, some films benefit more, some a little bit less, but usually the experience is richer. It's complex somehow, and it can help only the film. I would say we shouldn't be really conservative, and I hope we are not. We have to also admit that all of us here, people working for festivals, watch more films at home or in home conditions than in cinema, because of course it's impossible to watch everything in cinema. And I would say it's always better to see a film somewhere than not to see it at all. So we don't have to be really strict about it. But in our case, we felt that with such an unpredictable situation, going online, it's not an option because of the spirit of the festival. That was the #1 importance, and actually the only deciding factor in the end, because we felt it's not the way how we want to present it, and it's not what brings the strength of Karlovy Vary in place. That's not what we want to do with films, with people, how to connect them, and it's not in our DNA. Not, of course, like technically, it's not about the solution. It's about what we try to represent. And if anybody of you was in Karlovy Vary, you know how it looks like there. So it's really irreplaceable online. So we felt maybe it's better to skip, but. We, of course, also felt that forcing someone or starting discussion about premiering films online, it's different with CPH or with Neon. Their program was pretty much locked, and for those films, it perfectly made sense. And in their situation, I would do the same. In our case, we felt, okay, we can actually harm the film more than to help it. So, of course, that was also in our minds.
I think we will, if you allow me, you just touched upon a very important point that I think, yes, we should touch upon, all of us, the point of premieres in such a special year. But let me first express my position about this question of canceling the festival or doing something online or going hybrid. My position is to say, there is absolutely no way to know what is the best solution this year. The only thing we can do, all of us, is simply to do our best, is to really believe in our missions and try to be honest with them, with our missions, and have a proposal and try to do it the best possible. I don't think that there is any way to say that this festival should have actually been cancelled and that festival should have actually gone online. You know, I think it's all of us experimenting, doing our different approaches, and we will all learn and enrich, I think, the industry through this pluriform of what we're all trying to do. So I don't think there is any way to judge and measure what is better than what. We're gonna need years before we really can see the difference in impact, the change to culture, to anthropological experience, even, I think, with relationship with film at large. I will move from here to Vika, to my next point, actually, because I think that there is a very special place for all industry and filmmaker support and project workshops and forums and various professional platforms that is developing more clearer than with film screenings. So the voice out there that says that a lot of what we do in our industry activities in film festivals and training activities and forums and so on are things that can actually be replaced effectively and be sufficiently organized online. I think you are doing some activities with filmmakers in Docudays this edition, Vika. Am I right?
Yeah, correct. Yeah, we already like done this kind of range of activities. Basically, this, of course, it was better to invite and ask Daria, my colleague. She's the head of our industry section. Yes, Daria Vassilian, she could tell you more about that. But as far as I know, yes. Well, we basically we did all activities we planned like online. This was a DocuPro section, which basically Daria started all these activities like maybe 2 weeks before the start of the online festival. And this was a range of closed online events when participated by all filmmakers, producers and accredited guests who should be there. And as far as I heard, the feedback was really like, they were really happy. It was a really successful case. It was kind of very exhausting for all the team, because let's say we still have only one space, our office, and simultaneously we have to do this like industry sessions and at the same time preparing like the audience film festival. But so far I know that like yes, it was really everything was really good. And well, I think that's, I would say, I'm not an expert, but I think that for this part of the festival, like online format is quite okay. Because when I start thinking about Zoom, these Zoom conversations, they're very, in a way they're very functional. All these communications in online, they're really good in terms of practical, these aspects. And as far as you don't need this kind of immersive experience and you have only just issues, yes, it could work somehow. But I really can't comment on this because I'm not a filmmaker myself, so I don't have this kind of experience how to pitch a film, like offline or online. I think it's always stressful, and this is always also about people, about their relationships. So while you're online, you're still very limited. But as from the festival perspective, I think that this like DocuPro section was really well done this year.
Thank you, Ondřej. There was always this very important twinning between One World and the forum that the International Documentary Institute organizes in Prague at the same time. And in a way, the two events together were one of the highlights of what we follow up with, one of the important events in Eastern Europe, but because of that, to all of us. How do you describe what happened to your twins during the forum with this problem, with this situation? What happened to the forum?
Well, I think that they try to do their best, and maybe better to ask them. But I think that they were in the absolutely same position as we were, like at the same day when the lockdown came, and there was the situation that at the beginning of the day it was able to make any event for I think 50 people. There was kind of a maximum of people who were able to come to the cinema or to any theater, and they tried to do it in this way to fill this limited capacity. But at the end, I think that we both, One World and EastDoc platform as well, still feel it as a big challenge for the future of the organizing such events. Because we as One World, as a human rights film festival, we really try to mainstream sometimes unpopular, sometimes really difficult topics to really wide audience, and I think this is really kind of a big advantage of the online platforms, that you can really make your audience wider. But on the other hand, we all must be really prepared that there can be also some kind of disappointment from the side of the audience who is more conservative. I mean, like maybe senior citizens who are more offline or do not use these platforms usually. So what we try to do to think about both options in the future, to combine it, online and also physical edition of the festival. And also we do a lot of regional screenings, because One World is not just in Prague, it's in the 35 cities all around Czech Republic. And in many cases, these festivals are one of the only, or sometimes the only, cultural events in smaller cities or towns. And it's indispensable to do such a gatherings of the people, because we do also a lot of Q&As. And I think it's necessary for the future One World also think about these possibilities, how to do these gathering, also in case it will not be possible in such an amount, because there are about like 130,000 people who come to the One World each year. And also I'm afraid that it will not be possible in every of these cities or towns to organize the festival in this way, or online way, I mean. And of course, there's the questions when we are talking about Q&As, that people usually, when they are in discussion in Facebook or any social network, they can go so far because it's so anonymous, it's not so face-to-face, and people usually behave completely different when they do Q&As in the cinema or in some alternative place, let's say. So I think this will be really tough and difficult changes in the future.
Can I come to you, Melanie, about this point of the Daniel Blakes of our audience, the different generation, people who feel uncomfortable, not at ease with going to the internet. I think Sheffield is full of these people. Although you have a high percentage of young audience, don't you have some of this this group? The people who are, who would not necessarily be even curious to go and look for a film online.
Yeah, no, absolutely, yeah. So, like I said, although I think 40+ of our audiences are under 30, of course we get a real mix. We work really closely with the kind of independent cinema in Sheffield. It's called The Showroom, and a lot of their audiences are older. And as I said earlier, I think those audiences might be the last to return to the cinema. And and I think it is one of the reasons why we are keen to press ahead with the physical screenings when we can, is in part in order to be able to do a kind of outreach for new audiences that cannot be done online. I mean, there's space in both areas, but for different audiences, or for different new audiences. And I think, it's been like incredible, the work that's gone into the amount of films and content that has gone online. And hats off to to the CPH team and the Vision to Real team and your team, Orwa, who've put all of this amazing films online. But there's also so much out there. But I think if you don't know exactly how to kind of navigate that and to find the platform that's right for you, the program that's right for you, I think it could be quite easy to feel overwhelmed by the amount of content that's out there if you're not super engaged and kind of well, to be honest, or even if you are, I think probably we're all finding all of this quite overwhelming. So I think there's something to be said for putting on a small, I mean, I wish it could be bigger, but, a very small program in Sheffield throughout the autumn, through which we hope to reach new audiences, because, there's something much more kind of focused, and where we can do very specific outreach around very specific films in order to bring, new audiences to those films. I just wanted to touch on the point of how we can support filmmakers in the online space through training and mentoring and so on. It was one of the easiest decisions we had in all of these among these very, very difficult decisions that we've had to make, one of the easiest was for our meat market to go ahead. We've selected 68 projects, and we've had the support of around 250 decision makers to take meetings with those projects. And I think that's because, I think in all of this, we're really worried about, first and foremost, I would think, is about the films and the filmmakers, and doing our bit to help, those films that are in development to reach production, those films that are in production to reach post, and to help those films kind of make their next steps to be seen. And I just want to say that, we've been learning from Docudays. I was a decision maker in the market. It went really seamlessly. The Tina's team at CPH Docs have been talking to our marketplace team about how best to do this online, and kind of in terms of the logistics of it all, because I say it was an easy decision to make the meat market happen, but not so easy to know exactly how to do that kind of technically, because we're all learning here. This is not what we do. And so I just want to say, I think the documentary festival kind of circuit has just been so generous with its knowledge, each festival and market kind of helping the next one to learn from their own mistakes, really. And I just kind of want to put it out there that, our marketplace will go ahead in June. And for any festivals and markets that are listening that take place following that, we will be really happy to share what worked and, in all honesty, maybe what didn't work for us.
I do believe that this sense of solidarity is one of the main markers of this year for all of us, and it's unprecedented. And that's one of the points I hope we never go back to before COVID-19 about. And I also want to say that there is a difference, of course, between the actual reality of being incapable of doing things physically, and the lesson of discovering that some of them actually do not need to be done physically. So I think this year, for example, we know that we will lose a lot when we go with our industry activities online, but the question is not what we win and what we lose. The question is, we cannot do it otherwise, and if we do it online, there's a lot to win. There is a lot of positivity in this. But at some moment, I started to feel that, and I don't know, I didn't finish shaping my own opinion, to be honest. I'm just thinking with everyone and trying to follow and see how everybody's feeling about it. But I hear a lot of comments in the direction of, yes, good, we don't need that anymore. So we don't need to go personally to festivals anymore. It's bad for the environment. That's coming to you. It's just building up to head to you, Tine. Absolutely.
Yeah. Because the thing is that, so we did already, as you just mentioned, Melanie, we did the forum online, and we also just got the evaluation survey back from producers and decision makers and filmmakers who were attending. And so the thing is, as we all know, that it works. I mean, so it's efficient. You get into your meetings. It's quite focused because people are not just saying, hey, I need a coffee, or oh, hello. So it's actually quite, I mean, you're really close together, 3 people. And you get all your meetings, and people are generous in the sense that they wake up at 6 o'clock in the morning because they are in LA, or they stay up until very late in China or Japan. So all that works, but almost all of them also say that this cannot be replaced. And it's, I mean, in a way I was almost a little disappointed, because I thought, oh, come on. I mean, we can't fly around that much. So we need to find new solutions. But I mean, I have to say, many of them are saying that what we are missing is that you have your meetings, but then you go to the bar in the evening, or you go and have your coffee breaks, and then you meet all the ones that you were not supposed to meet. And for that reason, they say that markets and festivals in real life are an essential part of the ecosystem and of the industry. And Orwa, I don't know exactly how to solve that, but it was just a comment because we just got the surveys back.
I think it's impossible to have everything fully replaced well within such a short notice. I mean, it's a new reality. Please, Martin, go ahead.
I just wanted to shortly add that I think we should see this as an opportunity to try things which we are afraid to try, because I remember, for example, when IDFA was starting with docs for sale online, I know that there was this discussion: will people actually come to IDFA to do the things Tine described, to do the business which is not scheduled, not pre-scheduled, prepared, and that's basically where films are being made and co-productions happen, and it was logical to fear it somehow, and I think this is a great opportunity to try new things, and it goes not only to the question what can be done online and what have to be done in person, but many other things. The question of course, making a hybrid festival, putting some films online for the audiences for which this is the good place to watch them, and we can continue and continue. So this is one of the positive things out of the crisis, can be something new, something really reshaped, which makes more sense, hopefully.
Thank you, because I think this is a key point. Yes, I mean, you bring the example of docs for sale going online years ago now, but I always think about how when radio was invented and introduced, there was a general consensus that it's going to kill print journalism, that there will be no more newspapers because now there is radio and it's so much more convenient. And I think we know that it did not kill print journalism. Iryna, I'm heading to you now to ask you what you think about all of this. What do you feel with all of these different offers from film festivals to support you, to stand by your side, to give you a platform to launch your next film, or to give you a space to sell this one, or to present it to other festivals or salespeople electronically? And what is it that you miss? What is it that you wish on us? What do you think it is that we can do to be useful to you?
It's not so easy, but actually I agree.
Come on,
I agree with all of you, and I agree with the idea that the world changes, we change, and we have to change our attitude to different things. But at the same time, please, I still believe that we will have this big screen experience because it's something really special, and it's really special for some kind of films, because when you've been working so hardly on your image and sound, it's really frustrating to imagine all that viewers with laptops on their stomachs and they could put your film on pause, and I don't know what they could do. But at the same time, maybe I should add something about my experience, because I still felt quite a big power of collective watching, because during that 24 hours of screenings at Docudays Film Festival, I've been receiving hundreds of messages, like one by one, and that was really something very special, because some of them were from different people from some small cities and villages, and also that is the important point. I've received a few messages from people with some physical disabilities, and they have written to me that they had a chance to watch the premiere, and otherwise they would never have the same chance in Ukraine. So I felt that it's really something special, because the audience was quite wider, and also that's right that the young audience have written to us some things, and that was also something new for me that I've never expected. So yeah, I feel very uncertain about the future of my film, of films of my colleagues, because I see that some of them are very disappointed because they did not have a chance to have the first premiere in that screening hall situation. But I don't know, you guys are so smart and you will find some good solutions for us. I just believe that...
Thank you very much. Thank you very much. I truly hope all filmmakers say the same sentence. We would be all very happy. And I want to say that we are also very proud that we, with the various activities all of our festivals do, that we get to touch upon the careers or the launch of the careers of filmmakers like you. Because you know, Iryna, your film, I think I have seen the first trailer, first collection of footage, and then a longer assembly of footage, and then the first cut, and then the second cut. And we've been following up and working closely and following up with all of this story. And only sad that we were not there in the premiere, of course, but it still is something that is very valuable that we can contribute with this. Now, my question to you, my last question to you, because then there is a question that is coming closer and closer about premieres, also via chat. But first, my question to you, Iryna, is about how do you feel then if your film was screened in a theater, but then you can just upload it to the server and then we do Q&As with you from your place, from your own apartment? People are in the theater, but you are not there. This seems to be also one of the things happening now with the festivals that will start hopefully next month already, with some limited access and very, very little possibility of flying or traveling across Europe even. And then followed by that, there's a lot of pressure that all of this flying to festivals is costing the environment a lot. And then this means that maybe it's better you don't fly. We upload the film and then we talk via Skype. How do you feel about that as a filmmaker who is so closely represented by her film, who is so concerned about people listening to the right sound and to the in the right settings?
I'm not sure what can I say to you, because maybe it will sound quite egoistic. I was dreaming about all of that trips to some new places and festivals, but at the same time, you know, maybe we are losing something, because, for example, we already had that online screenings at CPH Docs and Cleveland Film Festival, and actually I did not know anything about how my film was perceived by that viewers. So, but otherwise, maybe if I will take part in some discussions and Q&As, and if I will have a chance to know to get some feedbacks from the viewers, maybe it will work for us, I mean for filmmakers, because we still need to feel this connection with our viewer. Otherwise, we don't feel anything what is happening there.
It doesn't sound egoistic at all, just to tell you. It sounds like a right, but we need also to make sure that this is really what you feel. We also cannot assume on your behalf. So it's important that we hear you say what you think is more important. I want to move to a last question that is coming, that Martin actually started bringing up, but now our dear Errol Balibani from DocuFest in Prizren in Kosovo brings up. And Errol says, I would like to hear your opinions. How is this? Yeah. How is this going to affect the distribution of recent films to festivals that have clear policies for premieres? Who would like to start?
So I can start.
Go ahead.
Yeah, we have to realize that the premiere policy or premiere requirements, it's not the ultimate goal. It's a tool which is there to somehow shape the circulation of the film and articulate it somehow. And when I was talking about opportunities, this is also an opportunity to maybe think twice before publishing the new regulations. I don't have any answers, not only because it's everything fresh and we didn't actually have time to talk about it with enough people, because of course ideas come up in your mind, but some of there is very wild brainstorming, and I'm sure we will be discussing it. We just canceled the festival a week ago, and we will see. Of course, there will be the gap. Many films, like Iryna's films, which will lose many opportunities in many countries because of the cancelled festivals. Some of the festivals do not wish to go online from certain reasons, but of course, it can be a chance lost. So we have to think about it for the next year, and I hope we will be courageous somehow, not necessarily canceling it, because there are a lot of good things about premiere policy, which is policies which are haunted as an ultimate evil, but we have to say that also it's a tool to make more films travel and have good competition premieres and find the right places where those films will be loved. And premiere policies are helping in this. So I'm just curious what the others will say, because it's too fresh, and I hope we will come with something wild. Maybe we will see.
Tine, what do you think about the COVID-19 exception to premiere regulation?
So, I mean,
and suggested frequently in the press, and many filmmakers wrote on social media about some things like this. And I don't know what I think. What do you think?
So I need to say that because we had already, I mean, we canceled 5 days before the festival was to happen. So all the films were confirmed as premieres. So in that sense, they did screen as premieres. But that being said, then I actually want to say that I think that the COVID-19 crisis really calls for another way of working together as festivals. And I think it's happening, as you also said, Orwa. And I think that the festival landscape is in a very obsessive way too competitive. And I think one has to ask oneself for what reason. And Martin, I agree that there is also a value to fighting for films, and hence for arguing for a certain type of premiere policy. But I also want to say that it's also about vanity. And I think that structural problems can only be solved, or can easily be solved, if one goes together in alliances. And it goes for, I mean, who wants to reduce one's market with the 75% people? Nobody wants to do that as the first one. But you can do it if you go together. You can also change premiere policy, both within COVID-19, but also after, if you go together. So I'm very, and I'm also saying it here because so many of you are our very close colleagues, that I would really love to work on a less competitive way and really create structural change. But we can only do it if we really work together, I think.
I think I'm very happy to hear this, and I think that we are absolutely on the same page. Certainly. We have 1 minute left to go. So who would like to comment on the point? Ondřej, please go ahead.
Yeah, actually, I don't have any clear answer on that, but I just want to suggest if maybe it would make sense to do some open discussion between festival people and distributors in the future. I mean, because we are just one part of that ecosystem. I mean, we who organize film festivals, but it would be nice to hear their ideas, and of course, filmmakers and producers as well, what they think should be changed in the future to don't have such a competitive environment.
Thank you. It's a very important point. Of course, we do not do this on our own. Melanie.
Yeah, I mean, I would agree with everything that's been said, but I guess I would add that I worry for the kind of more immediate future, that with the economic crisis that we're about to go into, that there might be a real reticence, or an even greater, reticence on the part of distributors to take risk. And so I would just say, I think, that's really where we need to come in, to kind of do what we can to diversify, the slate of films that we are giving a platform to, whether that's online or offline. And I think, and the premiere policy, as Martin alluded to, does, I think, play a part in that, because it sort of forces us to lose films, which, have, for every slot that we give to a film that's already launched, where we could be giving it to that kind of rare gem that you find through submissions that would never, that has not had kind of the opportunity to have a platform. But I guess, I would just say that I really think that this is an important moment, maybe more than ever, for festivals to take risk on new films, new filmmakers, at a point where I think we might find the kind of distribution and cinema markets, I can imagine possibly being even more, being more conservative than previously, as we have to kind of ride out an economic crisis.
Thank you very much. Thank you very much. And to close, I think that it shouldn't be impossible to find a balance between this approach, where we really give new spaces to new films and new filmmakers, rather than create a circular, tour for films, and at the same time take profoundly into consideration the point that Tine mentioned regarding vanity and over competitiveness. I think on some level it seems to be two different things, but I think it's absolutely not impossible to find a way that meets these 2 points at the same time. I want to thank you, everybody. Thank you very much for being with me on this, and thank you so much to Iryna for being our special guest this day, and Vika, Daria, and the entire team of Docudays. We wish you a wonderful ending of the festival, and we hope to see you soon, also in person.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you so much. Thank you, Orwa, for moderating.
Thank you.
Bye.
Bye.
Thank you.
Thank you.